Well, guys, the time's finally come to do up the old girl here. I've had it for 2 or 3 years. Bought it off a guy in Cranbourne South in Victoria there, southeast Melbourne. She's very well worn. A lot of, there's probably the head gasket's gone, the sump's full of water, that sort of thing. But it still goes. I still use it to put out the rubbish bins every bloody Wednesday. But no, we're going to clean. It's not a restoration. I'm not trying to put it back to grey or standard Harry Ferguson trim. It's going to be, I don't know what colour it'll be yet. There'll be a few little custom touches. The aim is to get it onto a club permit. I'm a member of the Harry Ferguson Tractor Club in Victoria there. But we're going to do it up nice. It's, as I say, she's well worn, but there's good potential. As I say, there'll be a few custom touches. The, believe it or not, the bonnet is aluminium. I don't know if that's normal or not, but it's actually aluminium. She's a bit wavy. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I think it's hard to panel beat aluminium. It stretches, I think. I could be wrong. It'll need a new set of front tyres, as you can see. The nose is pretty ordinary. Chin panel's probably not bad. Yeah, she runs all right. The gearbox seems fine. The hydraulics work. It's even got the original crank handle there. Don't like the dashboard. It's standard dash except for the tacho. That's going to be not changed. It'll be the same shape, but I'll do some custom stuff on that. Wheels, as you can see it. I put that seat on it when I got it. Yeah, as I say, radiator's all right, and that, most of the, well, all the components are there. And as I say, it runs all right, it behaves itself. Brakes are dicky, steering's dicky, but we'll fix all that. But yeah, as I say, the aim is for a club permit. But yeah, we're going to start pulling it apart today. And I don't know how long this is going to take. It'll be more than one video. The videos won't be as good as maybe Bundy Bear's garage up there. I think his name's Lance in Queensland. Does fantastic videos on these. Yeah, really cluey bloke on tractors. So I'll be getting a few hints off his YouTube videos, I'm tipping. But yeah, it'll be, yeah, a work in progress, this one. But let's get started. Well, that's where she's going to rest for a while now. It's a little bit tight in here. I can still get to my fridge, so that's all right. Nothing else in here on this side I really need to get at. I didn't want to block up that side because all the machines and all lathes and all that crap are over there. This side's really more storage, so I'll put it here. Got room to work on cars if I need to. That's going to help offset the cost of this bloody thing. Yeah, and got the radio going, as you can hear, so we've already drained the water out. There's a little bit left to go. We are going to start slowly stripping this down. Well, first thing we'll do, guys, is get the oil out of the engine. As I mentioned, I think it's either got a bad cylinder head gasket, a cracked head, a cracked block, something like that. Basically, you can see how grey the oil is. That's because water's got into it. And I don't know exactly where it's coming from. We'll find that out when we pull the motor to bits. We're going to reco the motor, or, you know, at least rings and bearings. But yeah, that's the oil out of it. Yeah, we won't be reusing that. And last time I did an oil change on this, there was no cartridge in the oil filter. So anyway, that's got to be changed. When we drain the gearbox and diffs, I think that's about 30 litres in all of that. So yeah, I'll have to find some sort of bigger container to drain it into. It's quite an expensive fill. There's probably $200 worth of bloody oil in that. But anyway, that's down the track. We're a long way off that yet. You got to love these things. Just took the bonnet off, as you can see. The stay, which is that one, is just held on by 2 bolts, which go at the front of the petrol tank. And the bottom is just held on down there by 2 stepped bolts. And then the whole bonnet comes off. Can't be easier than that. We'll pull the radiator now. I've already got a custom idea for the fan for this thing. I'm not going to run a mechanical fan. I've got a really nice thermo fan. It won't be going back to work. I may not even reset the governor. I don't know. We'll just see at this stage, but I'll probably put it back out it was. But yeah, it won't be going back to work at all. So just purely pleasure. I'll start on the radiator. Top, well, you've got that stay, which is just held in by two split pins. Top hose, that thermostat housing is a bit crappy. It may want replacing. Bottom hose, obviously, and I think there's just two bolts down underneath here. That'll be them. Two of them, and the radiator, sorry about the poor camera work, should come out. Well, as I said, radiator's easy, guys. It's just, as I say, the top and bottom hoses and that stay. And just the two nuts on the bottom there. You don't even have to undo them all the way. You can just slide them out. You know, loosen them and slide them out. So I think I saw a video on these once, or read something, and a team of guys put one of these together in 10 minutes. These are childishly simple to work on. Yeah, it's amazing just how simple they are, yet a bloody effective machine. Petrol tank's off, guys. Once you get that off, you can really get right into the guts of these things. As you can see, that is I think there's a breather pipe from standard that comes out, goes down, and probably into the manifold or intake somewhere to get rid of the crankcase gases. That's not there. This one also has, I've had the little rocker cover off before, checking clearances. It's got a stick and rocker, and it drops out a cylinder occasionally when it sticks. So I know the rocker gear is going to need work. Plus a lot of the rockers are well worn, so it's difficult to get a good clearance. Yeah, so as I say, we're doing the motor anyway. Yeah, other than that, tank's easy. 1, 2, 3, 4 brackets. Pull the battery out, makes it all easy to get at. Yeah, no big deal so far. Steering wheel's off. A little bit tight. I don't think it's a taper, it's just a normal shaft, got a keyway on it. A little bit of WD-40 and a bit of a tap with the copper hammer. You can see the little bit of copper residue. Yeah, you don't want to use a steel one, you'll burr over the threads and ruin the shaft. Pretty loose. Probably wants a new set of bearings, bit of work. As I said, I knew it was very well worn. Starting to remove the instrument panel, steering column, all that stuff, guys. Air cleaner comes off easy, just undo the hoses. 2 bolts, and there it is over on the bench. Comes off easy. Bit of a mix and match of wiring here. That's the original regulator down there. You can see that. Yeah, all that wiring there, that's all been cut. Does have a later alternator on it, which doesn't work. Well, the system doesn't charge. I'm probably going to abandon all this wiring and completely rewire it. There's not much in it. Yeah, because I want to put some lights and that on it, and yeah, so wiring, I don't know if I'm going to try and save it. I'll make a few notes and go from there. Bit of a process, disconnecting all this stuff behind the dash. I want to try and pull that whole steering column assembly out and the top of the gearbox in one hit with the idler arms, or what's the name arms, I can't think of them now. Pitman arm, idler arm, whatever they yeah, I want to try and lift that all out in one hit, so just disconnecting everything. Got to disconnect the throttle, choke, so on and so on. All the electrics are out of the way, and the gauges. Yeah, as I say, I'm going to do something a little bit different with that maybe. That's the steering column, steering box, gearbox top, battery tray, throttle linkage. Everything pretty much comes off in one hit. It's pretty rough. Yeah, she's going to need some bearings and a bit of attention, I'd suggest. Pretty straightforward to lift off. Just undo your two drag links here, or whatever you want to call them. A couple of other, all the nuts and bolts, a couple of other associated bits. It will get, the way I did it, it got hung up on this oil pressure line. Wasn't a huge problem. I'll do it differently on reassembly, of course. Just watch, there's, well, obviously don't get shit in the top of your gearbox. There's 3 detent, ball and detent springs these will be for those selector shafts. Just watch they don't come up with the top of the gearbox and you lose them, or they drop down in there. We may not split the gearbox on this. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a lot of extra work. The hydraulics work, all the gears work, the diff works. I can't see the point in pulling all that. I'll pull all the lighter stuff off to detail it all, but the basic box I'll leave together. It's, as I say, it's a heap of extra work and a heap of extra money for what's probably little gain. It's more all the other stuff, brakes, steering, that sort of stuff that's really bad. I'm sure that's worn inside, but yeah, no, I'm not doing that much work on it. These aren't worth it. They're a dime a dozen. Exhaust comes off pretty easy, guys. Just a clamp down the back there and 2 nuts on the flange. Bit of WD-40 just to soak them in, and that comes off. I'd probably like to put a, the bend and put an up pipe on that. That's down the track. Yeah, like I say, slowly but surely. Yeah, got the idler arms, the drag links off for the steering. That's done. Pull the back wheels off, as you can see, and the 3-point linkages. Not showing you how to do all this. You've seen it 100 times. It's, it's no point. Looks like we've got a bit of an axle seal leak there on the left-hand side. We'll put a new seal in that. Right-hand side looks all right, but we'll be checking all the brakes. We're going to take the guards off next. All that's got to be cleaned and painted. Yeah, slowly, as I say, slowly but surely getting there. The wheels are heavy. Well, one was heavier than the other, but I think it's full of water. But yeah, pretty bloody heavy. So be ready for a little bit of weight when you undo them. Guards are pretty easy, guys. 2 main bolts, as you can see. And the assembly looks like so. You could have, take all that framework off. I'm not. These are all good. These will have to be sandblasted and painted. And they'll be the body colour. The engine and gearbox, and that's going to be black. So there's a hint. But these will be a body colour, but I don't know what that is yet. It ain't going to be blue, and it ain't going to be grey. Well, as you can see, wheels are off, guards are off. Just took the couple of the 3-point linkages, the levelling box and that, the last bit's off. Drums are off. This side used to make a lot of funny binding noises. Well, that's half the problem, and it would appear that the anchor bolt, oh, there we go, it just came out in my hand. The anchor bolt appears to be broken off from there. So we'll have to replace that or weld it up or do something with it. That explains why the brakes sort of binded and carried on a little bit. The rest of the assemblies look all right, but I'll pull it apart anyway. The other side, as you know, a bit hard to see on this side, it's a bit dark. Has a leaking seal, but the linings are still all right in that. But yeah, I'll put a new axle seal in that and take the assembly apart, clean it right up. Maybe take the backing plates off. I want to pull these out because these need rebushing. But at the back, I'm not pulling it, as I say, I'm not pulling it apart that much more at the back. Most of it, as I say, is serviceable. Don't know if it matters, guys. This is the right-hand side. The red spring was on the top shoe, and that greeny coloured spring was on the bottom shoe. They looked like 2 different sizes and tensions. Looking at them, I'm going to put them back the same way. As I say, I don't know if it matters or not. I haven't checked the other side yet, but it might be something to watch. Just looking at this driver's side brake group. That activating rod, that is really loose in there. I don't know if that's normal. And also, these just may want tightening. There's nuts at the back, or it could be all flogged out, but this is all, I don't think that's meant to be that loose somehow. So I've probably got a bit of an issue in there. That's the broken anchor bolt to hold the shoe in place. I'll have to repair that, because that's the other one down there, as you can see. Adjuster, so on and so on, but yeah, a little bit of work. This is the driver's side. Yeah, a little bit of work. We'll put new linings and fix it all up. And as I say, the aim here is for a club permit, so you can use it out on the road. They won't give me a permit unless the thing's basically safe and roadworthy, so and brakes are part of that. Just a point of reference, guys. Just making note of how the cam goes and this bushing and collar and so on and so on. That's the driver's side. Just keep your eye on, this is the activating shaft for the right hand pedal. Or for all the brakes actually on the right hand side. There's a wood rough key in there, so just watch you don't lose that. These are the anchor pins for the shoes. I just noticed they're a bit oval, they're concave or whatever. One looks more than the other. I think they've been moving around a lot and chopped out. Well, no more when I pull the other side apart. That one was extremely loose. You can see the knurling on that one there is completely gone, and it's quite loose in the in that bracket, whatever that is, whereas this one's a bit tighter. I think what I can do is build that up with a bit of weld and turn it back and make it fit nice and tight, make it serviceable again. Other than that, that's the driver's side brakes apart. Yeah, we'll have a go at the passenger side, the left-hand side. These are the components for the brake adjuster, guys. There's the like the main cog wheel or whatever. You'll notice it's got these notches, and then you'll also notice that there's a detent ball. That'll sit in there. That part will sit over it. There's that spring which holds it in place, and then the clip. What that little ball's for, that's known as, I think they call them a detent ball. That's the detent. As you rotate that, that'll spring up and lock back in to each individual segment. That's merely to stop the adjuster backing off or tightening up. It's just to hold it in place. Otherwise, vibration, whatever, may de-adjust it or adjust them up tighter. So that's all it is, but it's an easy one to miss. So yeah, make sure you put it back. These are the bushings in the diff housing for the cross shaft that goes across for the brakes. That bush in there looks like it's turned to powder, and on the other side you can just make out a bit of the brass bushing that's left. It looks well worn. We'll replace both of them. Well, guys, we're just about to the stage of splitting this thing, and I thought, well, how the hell am I going to hold up all the gearbox and diff and all that, and have the motor off the ground and the front axle and so on and so on and so on. Yeah, what I've come up with, and it's not necessarily, well, it's not my idea. I've seen similar things before. I've made up a bit of a cradle. How that works, it's just with scrap steel. This is the value of scrap steel. I pulled the brake lever assembly out, the shaft that goes right through the bell housing there to the other side. I thought if I put a bit of round through that, which I've got there as you can see, and just made up a bit of a stand, that'll hold it, which it does. It's quite steady, it's easily removable, and yeah, it seems to do the job. So as you can see now, the wheels, everything is off the ground, so I can basically work on that and split the motor out. But yeah, that's, like I say, that's the value of having a few scraps of steel laying about. took off the, starting work on the front, took off the wheels. We'll remove the stub axles now. Pretty straightforward. If you look, they're just on a keyway. So remove the bolt, open up that, bridge that gap a little bit, not bridge it, open up that gap a little bit, and that arm will come straight off. Take the key out, and then that leg will fall straight out. So yeah, it's pretty easy. Yeah, got it over here on the bench. The shaft itself, I haven't done a proper check yet. Looks, there's the key, just sitting there. Haven't done a proper check of the components yet, but I think they're all right, but we'll check it all anyway. It's got to be all cleaned and painted, obviously. But yeah, once again, heavy. These components are very heavy. Gonna pull these, I don't know what you call them. Is that a longitudinal arm, a lateral arm, a trailing arm, whatever you call them? Undone the nuts on the bottom. These are as tight as you like. Had the rattle gun on them, they won't move. Gonna put a bit of heat and a bit of hammering and a bit of rattle gunning, and a bit of luck they'll come off. Both sides are really, really tight. So yeah, it's just, might have to get a little bit brutal with this. Amazing what you can do with a bit of heat and a rattle gun. Yeah, heated them up. Not cherry red, but got them good and hot. Put the impact gun on the bolts, and they loosened off straight away. I'm not going to touch them yet. They'll still be a bit hot. That one looks pretty worn. We'll have a closer look when all of that cools down. Well, that's the stub axles, whatever you want to call them. The you know, the two that come out left or right. Not stub axles. What would you call them? Whatever they are, anyway. Not kingpins. Whatever the hell they are. That leaves us with that other piece, whatever that's called. Just looking in here, I know there's got to be a bearing in there. I would say that I can see the bearing there. You just make it out there, or the bushing. I'd say that's all flogged out. I'd say we have to do a little bit of work there. That's all right. We can make that happen. That's the front axle pivot, I suppose you'd call it. That's just held in by 6 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4 pretty big and 2 smaller ones. And that whole assembly comes off. Once again, pretty heavy. Nothing one man can't handle, but I mean, you know, I can lift fairly heavy things. Yeah, it's yeah, but they are heavy to work on, but that's part of it, you know. Next thing to go now is basically we'll get ready to lift the whole engine out and put it straight on the engine stand, and that's getting very close to all the disassembly I'm going to do. Well, that's the engine out, guys. Pretty easy. Yeah, pretty easy stuff. We're just left with this. As I say, that's as far down as she's going to go. That thrust bearing's had it. We'll put a new one of them in it. Yeah, I'll just do a few detail parts, these handles, that sort of thing. But as I say, I'm not pulling the gearbox and diff apart. No point. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, so we're getting to the point now of, I guess what we'll do first is probably clean up all that assembly. You know, degrease it, all that sort of thing, and give it a lick of paint. I'm seeing black at this stage. It'll be black for that, black for the motor. Yeah, and of course, you know, so that's going to be a bit of time. I've got to work out how to get the bloody thing out of the shed so I can pressure clean it and that. But yeah, we'll put the motor on a stand. Just got to take the clutch and flywheel off, and yeah, the fun begins. Well, there's the clutch plate, guys. That's right on the rivets. The rivets are just below the friction material. It's that close. I mean, the clutch is serviceable, works fine. It's that close. I'm not going to do all this work just to have to split the motor again in 12 months. I'll put a new clutch in it. It's a little bit worn on the pressure plate, but nothing serious. Fingers are, you know, still quite serviceable. Flywheel, we'll get it machined up, and yeah, as I say, for doing all this work, it'd be just silly to put it back. Well, one more little job to do before we drag this out and start cleaning it. Going to make a little dolly for it. Already got the back wheels up there on that bit of board. That just turns round. I'll put a bit of straight, that bit of pipe, weld it up, and I'll put a bit of a swivel front wheel up the front here. And I should be able to let it down on that and wheel it outside so I can bloody coin it. Got to come up with something. There it is, guys. Made a little sort of dolly for it, as I said, to so this is so I can push it outside. See, it's all crushed rock. If I try to do it on the engine crane, it'll just sink. So those wheels will run over the top of that all right. Yeah, the front axle steers. It's very rough, but I mean, Christ, it just has to do this one job and I'll be happy. So, yeah, you can sort of move it around, you know. It's, there we go. It's bloody heavy, I don't mind telling you. Very bloody heavy. Even at that, that must be 250, 300 kilo, I'm only guessing. Very bloody heavy still. But yeah, that all means I can get out there on the crushed rock, pressure clean it, get it out there to paint it. I don't want to paint in here. But it won't be today because, as you can see, it's bloody raining at the moment and my old mate over there's after round. So yeah, so that's basically disassembly. That's pretty much the video done for part one. Future videos are going to be about, you know, sort of cleaning up each individual part. As I say, I'll probably start with the chassis, which being that. And just going through the numbers like that, as I say, and I'll sort of concentrate on each individual bit. Yeah, and let you, and hopefully we'll see, you know, we'll start seeing some progress.